Austin,
Yes, sir.
I think you should grow your beard out. Matter of fact, I think you should cut it and just go with the mustache. Actually, you know what? Shave your whole face, including your head and your eyebrows. I think you would look best like that.
And you know what's funny, by the way? They have damn near seen like the full progression of all that shit. Now that I think about it, they see me with no beard, they see me with hair, they see me with a mustache, they see me with semi-beard that I have right now.
Longer hair as well, because you had longer hair for a little period of time.
Yeah.
And then the accident happened, but we want to talk about that.
You know.
But walk us through that, Austin. What did I just do there?
So, you, like many people, and not just in my life, but in everyone's life, you just displayed what most people encounter, which is someone or people in general having an opinion on what you should do with your life. So I think, again, a lot of us have heard people say things like that to us in our lives. But I wanted to start the podcast off with a little bit of fun here, because a lot of people may not know us as well as others. So I wanted to give a little insight into the dynamic that Jose and I have. So this whole podcast idea came about because damn near on the walk-in, we got into a debate about what I should do with my beard and how the proper way to grow a beard in general.
To grow and groom a beard.
Correct.
Mind you, this was all instigated by a single question.
Yes.
When I walked in, I said, "Did you trim your beard?"
Yes. And to that, I responded. I was like, you know what? No, I just trimmed this section right here because I didn't like the extra hair hanging over the Adam's apple. It made me look a little raggedy and scruffy and whatnot. So I was like, yeah, I told the barber to trim that piece up. So that went on to a long conversation about Jose's thoughts on beard management and my thoughts on how I wanted my particular beard to come out and how I would like to go about growing it. So it turned out to be like a damn near 10 to 15 minute.
No, it was at least 30 minutes.
Okay. Debate about this shit.
And it wasn't really a debate. It was a discussion. Actually, no, it was a debate. You're right. It was definitely a debate.
Yeah. And most people, again, they don't know how we normally act. But when we're not, I would say in 100% alignment, we're very strong-minded individuals on certain, and it would be random shit. And in this case, beard management. And for those that may not know us, I wanted to start us off with this particular question. So, Jose.
Yes, sir.
A person can be open-minded or they could be closed-minded. But for those that may not know us, I would like for you to tell the viewers what you think I am, and I will do the same for you. And please describe why you say I'm open-minded or closed-minded.
I would actually like to say that we're both open-minded, just from a different perspective.
That's interesting. I was thinking that, but not exactly how you're going to say it. So go ahead.
Because a lot of times people fail to give others credit because they discount the fact that just because the way you get from point A to point B might be different, you're still getting to the same point.
Right.
And that's why I say we're both open-minded.
Right.
Now, the way by which we get there is I have a tendency, if I could categorize things, to take things in the positive, and you have a tendency to take things in a negative, which is kind of ironic considering that I'm the more pessimistic or nihilistic one out of the two of us, for the most part. And the way I say that is if somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, you should do this exercise for your hamstrings," I'll think, maybe that's a good idea. Let me give it a shot. While as Austin will say, here are the reasons why I don't think it's a good idea. And then if the amount of negatives cannot surmount the amount of positives, then Austin will say, let me give it a shot. Right? What's the worst that can happen? And so that's how I would say we're both open-minded. I have a tendency to give things a chance first, and you have a tendency to inevitably give something a chance if it presents itself as potentially valuable going forward. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you for the most part. I would say, in my response to that question, I would say that we're both. I can't really. I don't think it's fair to the viewers to give we're a little bit of both open-minded and both closed-minded, because everybody has a slight kind of a bit of both. But I would say for the most part, you're definitely the more open-minded of the two of us. I'm more closed-minded when it comes to certain things. I've definitely grown in that because I used to be closed-minded to damn near everything. But now I'm more open-minded in general. But when it comes to this specific thing, which is why it's funny for you, because though you are more open-minded, I have seen, because we've known each other for such a long time, maybe it's just because of that, I see it more of where I'll see occurrences where it'll just be like the oddest thing that just be like, no, fuck that. We're not doing it.
You know, and I guess I failed to see that part of the equation because I'm closed-minded and thinking that I'm not closed-minded.
Because there was one situation in particular.
Give us the actual story.
Okay.
I don't care what it is. Go for it. Go for it.
Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Go for it.
So, we were at the...
I don't even... For the record, I don't know what it is. This was not discussed in advance.
Yeah.
Well, the debate happened in advance.
Yes, the debate happened in advance, but this particular story that I'm about to reference didn't.
Well, it did happen.
Well, it did happen in advance, but the discussion about discussing it didn't happen in advance. So we were at the gym one night, and it was a night not too long ago, actually.
Oh, I think I know
We
where this
were
is
at the
going.
gym, and there is this one particular person that shows up at the gym. Not as often as us, of course, because that's what we do. It's our gym. But this one particular person,
They didn't ask permission.
this one particular person ended up showing up this night, and he normally likes to come over and chat it up with us. We're normally like mid-exercise, so we don't really have as much time to do that. But Jose, being the more cordial person out of the both of us, will sometimes interact and start off a conversation. I chime in here and there and whatnot, because he's not a total person I have a disdain for or something like that.
Well, we don't disdain him. I don't have a disdain for him.
We don't have a disdain, loathing, whatever. We don't know necessarily negative emotions toward this person. This is just more of a whatever. So as we're working out and this person's about to leave, he says, hey guys, don't forget to set your New Year's goals. Don't forget to set them, and then walks off. So
he said, don't forget to write them down either.
Yeah. Don't forget to write them down.
Who the fuck are you?
Exactly. So most people, when you think of what Jose just said about being more open-minded, because in general, he is more open-minded with certain things, well, with most things. But when it's like the smallest thing that you wouldn't expect, he'll be closed-minded to. And in this particular circumstance, I was completely in agreement with him. I'm like, yeah, fuck that. So in this instance, it wasn't maybe I'll consider writing down my goals. I've never written them down before and never had the need to, because that's just not how I operate. But I'll consider doing that. But this time, his response was, guess what? The fuck? How the fuck would he say that shit to us? You me write down my fucking goals? You know who I am? Jose. That's how he...
No, you have to say it correctly.
He didn't say it like that, but that's like...
No. It was even better than that. I looked at Austin and I had like this look in my face where I was like, I was stunned. I felt like I got hit by a flashbang. I was like, is this serious?
Did he just say that to us?
And I turned around and I said, we don't need to write them down. We make them and break them every day. And he was like, yeah, walks off. And
then he was dead ass.
And then I turn around to Austin and I go, who the fuck does he think he is? Fucking telling us to write down our fucking goals? I was like, buddy, you show up to the fucking gym on time consistently, and then you can start talking about writing fucking goals. That's ridiculous. And normally I would have just been, yeah, bro, yeah, we're going to write down, what are your goals for the year? That's normally what I would do because that's how I am. But I was like, no, this guy, that's ridiculous.
And that's exactly why I said it's like, for both of us, we are normally open-minded people, but with certain things that we view as just dumb or just not logical or not how we want to do things, it's just like, yeah, fuck that, not doing that. But just like there was a difference between kind of open-mindedness and closed-mindedness as well. Jose, can you tell me a little bit about potentially being closed-minded, or would you rather call it being cautious, or would you rather call it being calculated? Because I feel like a lot of people see closed-minded and you think, okay, they don't want to hear shit. They just don't want to listen to shit. However, somebody could be viewed as closed-minded, but they're really cautious or they're really calculated. So could you go into that a little bit more, please?
Right. Because I think that open-mindedness has a tendency to, if you are too open-minded, you can have a tendency to fall off the cliff and be a little more giving or more accepting of things that you shouldn't necessarily be accepting or giving of.
Gullible, I would say.
Right. That's a good example. And I'll use you as an example because the way I categorized you of being open-minded is essentially putting up a list of criterion and comparing the pros and the cons before you accept a task or a trial or a statement or a fact, whatever it might be. And while as some people might consider that closed-mindedness, that's actually, in my assertion, just being cautious and calculated. Because just because you don't instantaneously say yes or jump at all opportunities doesn't mean you're closed-minded. And that is a skill rather than an attribute because it's something that you train over time. An example I would use is chess. You might want to, per se, sacrifice a knight to get a pawn because you're open-minded, right? You're hasty. You make the decision immediately. You jump at the instant gratification. You jump at the idea that you can succeed quickly. But it's not a long-term way of thinking. And so some people might say, oh, playing tactically is open-minded and being cautious is strategic. So it's kind of the distinction between being gullible or being cautious and calculated. And I think a perfect example of this as well is when people travel to third world countries, especially tourists, there might be a local guide or individual who says, hey, let's go here. It's safe. It's a good place to go. And they're like, yeah, this is a safe country. This is a safe city. Da, 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 da. And next thing you know, they get robbed. There's a lot of things that I'm not going to say that happen, but let's just settle with they get robbed and then they get abandoned at some beach or whatever, all because they were open-minded to the opportunity as opposed to being cautious and calculated because their friend was like, don't be so close-minded. We're here for the experience.
And I think that for us, I don't know if it's, I don't want to say it like this, but it could be a man thing, but I also think it's more specifically that both of us, and I, even though I am kind of either closed-minded or cautious or calculated, we both understand that we are open-minded to a degree, but we also understand why we're closed-minded or how you come about being closed-minded or calculated, because we both have science and software engineering and mathematical backgrounds. So when we see something or when I see something, and Jose has grown to be, he doesn't think like this all the time because he has matured enough to be like, okay, I don't have to think in a mathematical or pragmatic way all the time. But for me, I'm still in that kind of phase where it's like, hey, look, what are the pros and cons? Like Jose said, are there more positives that come out of this or more negatives? If there's more negatives, then I'm not doing that shit. Or if it, this is the potential outcome that could happen and I like this potential outcome that could happen better than that, I'm not going to go with what you're proposing to me. I'm going to go with what I was doing anyway. So if you're more of a mathematical or statistical, scientific type of guy, I could definitely understand why people may say you're closed-minded or why it may be harder for you to be more open-minded because of the background that you were, ingratiated in. But I also do think it is beneficial to grow in open-mindedness as well. But I do want to touch on this. So again, we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but a lot of people have to deal with somebody trying to tell them, hey, this is how I think that you should do something. External influence. This is something that's very big in life in general, but pretty much in whatever field that you're trying to go down, external influence is going to happen to you. So what would you say is the best way, or maybe not the best way, but what are some ways that you feel like that you can deal with external influence as you matriculate through the field that you're going into? And how have you dealt with external influence? Because I know that a lot of people have tried to tell you what you should and shouldn't do.
And they always will.
Right.
And they always should.
Really?
Yes. There is, and I was trying to find the exact word or descriptor for this, but I couldn't find it. In Roman times, for the rulers, there was a Roman council. And essentially, for example, the Emperor Augustus was the decision maker, and the council was loaded with individuals who were experts in their domain. It could be carpentry, it could be politics, it could be war, it could be whatever it is. And they would give him all the information he needs to make a decision, and he would ask clarifying details and information. So people giving you both opinions and facts is important, because at the end of the day, you are the decision maker. But you have to navigate this external influence with caution, because an example is Napoleon Bonaparte. Very two different people. But Napoleon Bonaparte had an extensive network of information, all the way up from foot soldiers to generals and everywhere in between. And he would filter through the information so that he could get through the opinions and to the facts, because a general might want to report something less detailed and less negative in order to gain favor from Napoleon, while a foot soldier has nothing to lose from telling him, hey, we are losing ground. And so external influence is a tricky thing, because you want to balance facts with opinions. And a lot of times, depending on your source, the majority of information is going to be opinions. But depending on your circumstance, those opinions might actually matter. If you're trying to win a vote, opinions matter. If you're trying to win, facts matter. What actually is going on matters. If you're trying to make more money in most fields, again, now it's a combination of facts and opinions. Do people like me? Do people appreciate my work? Is my work of high caliber? Am I a high caliber individual? Can I socialize? But one of the things here that I want to know, Austin, is your opinion on external influences and how to weigh external influences and their input to your consequences. Because I know that a lot of times we base our decisions based on the wrong things.
Right. So you have to think, you have your own thoughts that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and then you have a large amount of opinions coming from every direction, everywhere that you turn. You walk out your door, somebody's giving their opinion about something. You look on the news, somebody's giving their opinion on something. You look on social media, somebody's giving their opinion on something. Your parents are giving you their opinion on some shit. Your friends, your child might give their opinions on something. Everybody has something to say and has their input or wants to give their input on something, right? But keep in mind of this. Who is the one person that you wake up to every single day, or that you have woken up to every single day for your entire life? Who is that one person that you've woken up to every single day? It's probably you. So if you're the only person that you've woken up to not the only person, but every single day, you're the one person that you can count on every day to wake up to, you have to realize this. Whatever somebody tells you, or what opinion somebody might have about something, you have to weigh the consequences of that potential opinion and you implementing that opinion in your life. Is it something that you're okay waking up with? Is it something okay that you're okay dealing with for either a short period of time or an extended period of time. And honestly, you may not know if it's going to be short or if it's going to be long. So is it something that you're okay with dealing with for, I would say, the rest of your life or for an unknown amount of time? That's something I feel like you have to think about for damn near every opinion or external influence that you get, because somebody might have an idea that is good for them or a opinion because they tried something and it worked for them. But you have to think, will this work for me? Right? Jose might have a boot size. He might wear a size, I don't know, 12. And he's like, man, these are the best boots ever. And they fit very well. And they probably would even fit on you. Even though you wear a different size, they would probably still fit on you. That boot might work for him. That particular boot might work for him. But if I had to choose that boot for the rest of my life, or the shoe that I had for the rest of my life, and I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to Jose. And then I put that boot on and I had to wear it for the rest of my life. And then come to find out it is a size 12 and it's not as spacious and comfy as he said. And it would not fit a size up, which is a size 13, which is what I wear. And for the rest of my life, I have to deal with that snug fit for a boot and feel cramped. So that's something that I would have to deal with for the rest of my life. Jose's fine. His opinion on that boot, it works for him. But does it work for me? No. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life in that example. So for you, if somebody's giving you a opinion or thought on something on how you should live your life, you have to realize that, again, you're the only person that really has to deal with these consequences. So before you make any hasty decision, think, is this something I am okay living with? If so, try it. If not, there you go, because it is your life at the end of the day. So make the best decision for you. And when I say that, I'm not saying make the easiest decision for you. I'm not saying take the short route or BS around. I am saying make the best decision for you. And really, people around you could have a good idea of how something may turn out because they may have lived longer, and age does play a large part in that because your parents are wiser because they've been on this earth longer than you. But really, at the end of the day, you, for the most part, know what works best for you when it comes to certain things. So under those circumstances, think about the consequences of how that could potentially hurt you or help you if you took their advice. But
it's almost like trying to keep up with the Joneses in the process of buying new things and upgrading everything that's unnecessary and generally outside of your means of living. You go into debt. And now you're paying off note after note after note after note, and you have nothing besides debt. And it's not good debt, it's bad debt. And all for what? Other people's opinions. You dig your own grave.
right.
Literally. Actually, you can't even afford it because you're in so much debt that you can't afford life insurance. Shout out to
That's crazy.
life insurance
Yeah.
and life insurance salesmen. We love you.
Yeah. Particular ones.
Yes, indeed.
And not particular ones.
But I want to know what's a good framework, because I know we have more questions, but I want to know what's a good framework, because this is making me think, how can we advise the younger version of ourselves to effectively filter and decide on our actions based on our thoughts, as well as incorporating external influence when it is valid? And a perfect example is, right, everybody told me to get an internship and I chose not to just because everybody was telling me to. And historically, that has proven to bite me in the ass. So if you could travel back 6 years ago and meet me, not knowing the decisions I'm going to make, but being able to give me a framework by which to make the decisions, what would it be?
That's a good question. So,
Because it's cheating if it's from you to you.
right. So if I was going back 6 years to talk to, what would that be, 19-year-old Jose, I would probably say this. So I know that a lot of people are telling you and giving their opinion on what they think that you should do, whether you should get an intern or not get an intern and do whatever you want to do. But I would say this. One, what is your plan? What is your sole plan that you want to do that doesn't include anybody else's opinion? What is your idea? What is your path? What is your plan that you have for yourself outside of internships for this coming summer or summers or what have you? What is that plan? Now, here's that plan that you have. Now I will give my opinion on this. So internships, we know what it is and we know the experience. But you also have to think about what is the ceiling. So when you're thinking about your potential option and other people's potential option or opinion on something, what is the ceiling and what is the floor for both of those? And it kind of goes back to my calculated way of thinking about certain shit. Bless you. And so before, because I was in a similar situation, my ceiling for what I was going to do that summer was probably lower than yours because you had higher aspirations. I feel like at the time you had more options to pick from at that time. So if you asked me what was my ceiling for my opinion on what I should do for either internships or my route, I would probably say, I don't know. There you go, get a job somewhere, right? Not that high of a ceiling. Now, if I said, okay, now what if you got an internship and from that internship, now you have employment after high school or after college. That ceiling is higher than I don't know, right? The potential is higher than I don't know, right? So though you may not want to do the other thing or the opinion of others is annoying you and you feel like they're just telling you what to do, what is the ceiling and what is the floor for your option and for their option? Really, truthfully and honestly, evaluate both and which one has the higher ceiling. Because we have gotten a lot of opinions on things from a lot of people. You know, get a job so you can get health insurance and a 401k and certain shit like that from a person that we care about.
In all good meaning, mutuality.
Yes, a person that we care about.
Right.
But the ceiling for that is here. It really only goes about here. But our route that we want to take for ourselves, the ceiling is all the way up here. Like, actually past that, it may be harder to obtain, but the ceiling is higher. And we're willing to deal with the consequences of going after that and losing sleep and spending less time with people partying and shit like that. We're okay with that because the ceiling is so much higher that we want that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to kind of filtering out good options and bad options, I would say think of the floor and the ceiling of your option and what you have in mind and theirs. And see, okay, if I did go this route and everything went according to plan, how high or how far do I get? And if everything goes well in my plan, how far and how high do I get? Truthfully and honestly. However, if everything goes wrong in my plan, how horrible can things get? And am I okay with it? Okay with that? And if I go their route, how horrible could things get? And am I okay with that? If you feel like you're okay with the ceiling of whatever that is and you're okay with the floor, it's not too big of a gap to where it's like, okay, that's ridiculous, I'm not doing it, choose that. However, you know the other. So
So the framework would be input, decision, find a domain expert, establish a ceiling and a floor for every single decision, and find a way to measure it, whether it's salary or time or outcome, filter external influence, and then make a decision and pursue it.
right. So that's something that I feel like I have used in my life to make certain decisions. And most of the time, it wasn't something that I liked right away. The wiser decision, which I did end up choosing, wasn't something that I saw the benefit to right away. It wasn't the most fun route. However, in the long run, it worked. So truthfully and honestly, weighing and measuring the floor and the ceiling of things definitely helped me make those decisions and filter out the bullshit from the facts. So, sorry, right now it is currently
Storming.
storming outside. So
You never know. Oh, like that. Oh, you weren't there for the lightning strike.
I definitely was there. I was literally right there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I forgot for a second.
This guy.
All I remember is the poor dog.
Yeah, it was like the loudest
It-
thunder strike ever on planet Earth, and like the whole building shook, and the dog was just outside
in the rain, like
in the
what
rain, not knowing
where
what the fuck just
am
happened.
I? And the poor thing is, that was an old ass dog too. So
It
you know,
was probably like shit itself and everything, you know.
and, you know, it probably did that multiple times. All this airport dog.
Yeah, probably. But,
That's interesting. So you also covered what's your preferred outcome,
right.
essentially.
Yeah.
Because you said what is your end goal?
Right.
With the end goal in mind, then you backtrack and work towards it. I think that a lot of times this idea can get misconstrued, and people can look at external influence as something that you just have to cut out, right? Other people's opinions you just have to cut out. Other people's thoughts are just irrelevant. I'm the only one. I'm the center of the universe, and I'm the sun. And in my experience, I could tell you first-handedly that that is not a good nor effective approach towards life in general. Because truth be told, other people's opinions do matter. Other people's influence does matter. Because if you think that you're the only one who can come up with rational and valid decisions or choices, then you're wrong. And I think a lot of times this is something that everybody has to go through from an early age, because we all want to retaliate against those that are older than us, whether it be our parents, our relatives, our aunts, our uncles, or our older siblings, or perhaps a boss, because we think we know better. And perhaps we do, but there's a reason why that there's a hierarchy, why humans' mothers specifically have the most nurturing lengthwise phase out of all the species on planet Earth, because we require it. There's a reason why. There's this saying that says it requires a village to raise a child, because we are extremely ignorant and weak unless we can be guided by those who are stronger and above us and more wise. And I think that for better or for worse, we have to listen to our parents or a mentor or somebody who is where we want to be. Because, see, this is why sometimes riffing isn't the best, because I can't exactly recall the things that I'm trying to refer to. It's, is it the Schrodinger effect?
that sounds familiar. Are you talking about what is it, the box with the Schrodinger's cat?
No, it's not. It's the one where you understanding that you know nothing as you go further along.
Oh, I don't know if that was the actual. You probably.
No, it's a scientifically proven curve.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I won't go off the name, but basically the way it works is when you're starting something out, you think you know everything.
Right.
And the further along you get, you realize you know way less than you do. So your confidence is high, then it goes down. And as you gain proficiency, your confidence goes up, and then it generally peaks at around the same height as it previously was at the very beginning. And so people at the end of the curve have a tendency to look at the beginning of the curve, people at the beginning of the curve with disdain. So if like say an old head looks at you and says, you know nothing about life because you're spouting off on XYZ, and he looks at you with disgust, essentially, because he's like, how can you say these things? And you're like, man, I know it all. And he's like, I've seen it all. That's kind of the dynamic. Mm-hmm. And so you have to understand that they're not looking at you in an aggressive manner or a derogatory manner or a negative manner because that's just how you are. It's that you don't have the chops. You don't have the experience. You don't have the foundation by which you can make these arguments. It's just based on your willful ignorance, which that's youth. That's the power of youth. And so you have the energy of the youth and the wisdom of the old. And when you collaborate, then you get something beautiful.
And as I don't want to say we're older people, but we've grown, and we're definitely older than what we used to be when we were teenagers thinking that we knew it all. And there were certain things that, say, as that old head thinking that, you've experienced it all, that you want to tell the youngin, like, hey, nah, I've experienced this. Listen, there's certain things that young person is just not going to listen to. There's certain things that people that you're trying to communicate just aren't going to listen to. So you know what you're going to have to do, which is hard sometimes, after you've given it all that you could and have tried to reason with someone all that you could. Sometimes you're just going to have to let them bump their head. And this is something that I feel like our generation of parents, and probably before, specialized in. Once they told you a certain amount of times, they just said, you know what? Go ahead. You do it. And if you end up getting yourself into a situation, that's on you. Because certain people learn things through hearing, and then certain people learn things through actually experiencing it and going through it themselves, i.e. the hard way. And it's hard for us to sit here as people that may love someone and care for someone to say, hey, look, I'm just going to let you either sink or swim by yourself. But for some people, that's just how they learn. So, you can give your opinion until you're blue in the face, but some people, it's just not going to get through. Right. And for those people, I would say, after you did all you can, just let them live. And sooner enough, that ignorance is going to turn into experience. And hopefully the experience that they had wasn't, too horrible to the point to where it caused some bad, but hopefully it was profound enough for them to realize that, okay, now that I've gone through this, what that person was saying or trying to tell me earlier on, it had some, truth to it, right. So, i.e., and I say that to say, the topic of how do you like your beard, Jose could tell me, hey, I think you should grow your beard like this. And I could say no, and he could continue to tell me to do some shit, and I could say no. But eventually, you know what Jose is probably going to do? He's going to be like, you know what, fine. And then he's going to let me figure the shit out for myself, whether I was right or wrong, or whether he was right or wrong, and just figure it out for myself. And most of the time, especially if it's coming from a place of somebody who's actually experienced the shit, the person who's already experienced it is normally the person who's right. But you just have to let life happen to the person and let time happen and let time show all for that person to realize it. So that's just how life is sometimes. So, yeah. How do you like your beard, man?
How do you like your beard? Can you grow a beard or can you not? It doesn't matter because you are who you are. The AM Club Podcast.
Shout it out.
Mic check. The AM Club Podcast.